Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman,
Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
And the woman said unto the serpent,
We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
And the serpent said unto the woman,
Ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
The Skull and Bones is a secret society founded at Yale University in 1832. The Bonesmen, as they're called, choose their initiates just like Freemasonry. In fact, the only way one can join the Skull and Bones is if one is invited by inside members. Every year, only 15 members are allowed to enter, which is very mysterious because many popular figures throughout history have been members of this secret society. 3 famous United States presidents have been Bonesmen, such as William H. Taft, George H.W. Bush, and his son George W. Bush. Many U.S. senators are also Bonesmen, such as Prescott Bush, John Kerry, John Chafee, Jonathan Bingham, David Boren, John Sherman Cooper, Chauncey Depew, William Maxwell Evarts, James L. Buckley, Robert A. Taft, Frank Bosworth Brandegee, John Hines, and John Patton Jr. were all members of the Skull and Bones. 5 U.S. governors, 3 congressmen, 5 Supreme Court justices, Pierre J., the first chairman of the New York Federal Reserve, and George L. Harrison, the president of the New York Federal Reserve, were all Skull and Bonesmen. The Bushes have long been pillars of the infamous Skull and Bones Society, based in a windowless mausoleum known as the Tomb, alongside the campus at Yale University at New Haven in Connecticut. Every year, 15 bloodline students are initiated into the Skull and Bones Society, and the ratio of Skull and Bones initiates who end up in positions of power in politics, banking and business, media and intelligence agencies in the United States, in front of camera and behind the scenes, is massively greater than the general student population.
So far I've been giving mostly historical proofs of the Swiss being responsible for wars and crimes against humanity, and actual facts and video footage concerning Switzerland's violence, organized terror and hatred towards immigrants and other races. But there exist also scientific proofs that the Swiss are an entirely different species, nowhere else to be found in Europe. And I told you so. They are no Europeans, and Switzerland is the base of Pharaoh. Me personally have never witnessed so much evil, so many organized lies of such utterly mean intensity as in Switzerland. And this is what makes people out, what they have in their heads. And let me tell you, what the Swiss have in their heads is so very different from the rest of humanity that I might call their inhibitions alien, in maybe more than one sense of the word. And the things we have in our minds are being confined by the skull, as in Skull and Bones, you might say. It's also the form and size of the skull that defines the size of the brain and its intellectual capacity, and even tendency for crimes can thus be predicted. And this is why Freemasons, who came out of the Templars who founded Switzerland, present the skull with square and compass for craniometry, because they know their skull and bones, I repeat, skull and bones, are different from ours. This science of the human skull is called craniometry or cephalometry, and it has been discovered by science, doctors and professors, that the Swiss have skulls nowhere else to be found in Europe, thus maybe leading to the entirely different Swiss universe, highly predestined for organized crime. So in this scientific research by Dr. Ripley from America, it shows a cephalic index of Europe and of the world, which I'm going to show you later. And I'll put the link in the description, as I always do, so you can verify and examine the scientific analysis of the craniometrical map of Europe yourselves. And you can see by this craniometry that the Swiss are neither Germans, French or Italians, because Europeans don't fit these cranial characteristics. This is another species, either talking German, French or Italian. And there's even an official name for the Swiss skull called brachycephalic. Cephalic meaning concerning the skull, which is being seen from above, a relatively short and quite round skull, whereas the rest of the Europeans, seen from the top, have long skulls and not round, called dolichocephalic. So this one here, and I'm going to show you this on the cephalic map of Europe in a moment. This is the Swiss brachycephalic skull form, which is only be found in Switzerland in Europe. You're going to see that. This is European, the dolichocephalic or long skulls. So long as being seen from the top, long from here to here. And this is quite short and broader, like here in the back. Well, we've seen aliens like this, haven't we? This is going deep, folks. You better copy it first, download it, because I've got a feeling the Swiss are going to delete it very, very quickly. And then it's gone. So here's a cephalic map, cephalic index of Europe. And here where it's black, you know, it's like a cancer in the middle of Europe, and it is a cancer. There's a high concentration of, for Europe, alien skull forms. Alien as they don't belong to Europe. You can see that. They're not here. They're not here. Not even in the south. A little bit in Italy. You know, well, here's Rome. But here's a very high concentration. It says. They're not from here. You can see it. No. Definitely not. The cephalic map of Europe shows a neat distinction starting right at the Swiss border, where on both sides of the border around Switzerland the people have entirely different skulls, exactly showing that in Switzerland there's an entirely different species with different skulls and what's inside these skulls. So you can read it again here of the cephalic index of Europe. Where it's black, it means broad skulls, and they're not European. So here, this here is Switzerland here. These are the borders. Here's France, Germany, Vorarlberg, where they are Swiss. So you can see it stops right neat at the border, you know, here in France and here in Switzerland. They have a completely different skull form. It's like chopped off, you know, neat, clean cut at the border here. So, and these parts are Alsace here, where they replaced the original population. As I told you, they're ethnic Swiss here, as in the north of Italy here, and in Austria, Vorarlberg. I'm a bit surprised it doesn't show black here in the south of Germany. Very surprised. But it is dark anyway. It's not like here, like the rest of Europe is white, long skulls. So it's like a cancer in the middle of Europe, and they behave like a cancer. They are the cancer of Europe. So, well, except for those regions of what I told you, the ethnic Swiss are living, where Swissy replaced the original inhabitants during the 30-Year War, when Swiss mercenaries perpetrated a total genocide on the original inhabitants of Alsace in eastern France, Vorarlberg in Austria. They call them the Xieberger, because they talk like in Switzerland. Northern Italy and southern Germany, where they speak in fact Alemannic Swiss German today, and want to create that great Swiss empire, including that ethnic Swiss buffer zone, of which I've already told you all in some of my previous films. So here are the irrefutable scientific proofs of all I told you before, which even scientific craniometry double backs up. So if we look at the cephalic index of the world, you can clearly see that this is the place where the Swiss come from. Here. Mongolians, Genghis Khan. And they got their little concentration here in the middle of Europe, in the Alps. From a place called also Khazaria, the Khazars. This is where the Khazars went to in the middle of our beautiful Europe and destroying it bit by bit. And when I translate Khazar in Demotic Pharaonic, there's Ka, the living soul, and Sa, the king or pharaoh. So Khazar means soul king. Some of you racists might like this, but I tell you it's wrong. So here it talks about the Jews and brachycephalic. So yeah. So the only ones having the same skulls are the Jews. So the Swiss in fact have Jew skulls of the brachycephalic order. Now, how come the Swiss and the Jews share the same cephalometry? Whereas the Swiss have always terrorized and chased the Jews, forcing them to live in the two villages of Endingen and Lengnau, which I've already shown you in my other video, right at the German border, only forcing them to wear the yellow Jew hat in the Middle Ages and other Nazi-like Swiss measures. Well, why? Well, this is the pharaonic link. So I filmed it in this video here 2 years ago, when I went filming in those two Jew villages, Lengnau and Endingen, and the Jews finally disappeared entirely from Switzerland as they were completely terrorized. So in spite of the fact they have the same skull form, they don't have the same thing in their heads. And this is what the Swiss forced them to wear in the Middle Ages, this round yellow thing, like the yellow star, and a yellow Jew hat. So they finally got fed up with it and left. But why do they have the same skull form? Oh, I'm going to explain that to you now. The Jews were 410 years prisoner of Pharaoh, had their women raped by Pharaoh, and the Swiss had their women raped by the aristocracy through the prime noctis, or the Lord's first rite, or also you might say the first night, thus massively spreading Pharaoh's genetics in Pharaoh's base, Switzerland, and they were raised by Pharaoh, as I've already told you so. So here's another particularity of the Swiss craniometry. Here it says alpine. This is the alpine skull form, which is brachycephalic. But if you look at the rear of the head, there's another difference. This is Nordic, you know, this is bump here, or Mediterranean, it's the same, or Atlantic. Here's nothing, it just goes straight over into the neck, you know. Which is the same in the East Baltic, where you go to the Khazar region. So it's only alpine in central Western Europe. It's only alpine having this, together with the brachycephalic skull form. You remember the black cancer in the middle of Europe. So nowhere else this particular brachycephalic head form can be found in Europe, except Switzerland and the ethnic Swiss parts. The Swiss are definitely not what we think they are. They are no real Europeans, and maybe even something completely else. As I've witnessed on many occasions in Switzerland, that they seem to understand each other without talking and just through the look of an eye. They always seem to stare at people as if they see right through and detect something they don't like. And there are many things they don't like in Switzerland, on which they use their laws of silence, organizing through some creepy look of the eye among themselves. The biggest races in the world are in fact illegal immigrants themselves in our Europe, hiding on top of the mountain with all their looted gold and their Swiss short heads.
Yale campus, the Skull and Bones building, is known as the Tomb, being decorated in skulls, bones, swords, knives, armor, death, blood, and darkness. It is here that they perform their bizarre and sexually ritualistic initiations. Sometimes, ear-piercing screams can be heard coming from this building. In 2001, ABC News, along with the New York Observer, filmed an imitation throat-cutting ritual being performed by the Bonesmen.
The videotape provides a grainy glimpse into what appear to be the initiation rituals of a secret society that's been around since 1832, whose members have gone on to be leaders of Wall Street and the White House, the Senate and the Supreme Court.
They're sort of trying to scare the initiates, make them, disorient them, frighten them.
New York Observer investigative reporter Ron Rosenbaum accompanied a team of Yale students who shot these pictures 9 days ago. Rosenbaum's curiosity about Skull and Bones was permanently piqued when, as a classmate of George W. Bush, he lived right next to the Tomb, the group's heavily fortified home. From their perch, Rosenbaum and his cohorts taped the Tomb's courtyard. What they captured, they say, was initiates, known as neophytes, being forced to kiss a skull, then members performing a mock killing. It may look like your average fraternity nonsense, but Rosenbaum says it's not.
Even though it may seem silly to us, it seems to mean something to them, and you can't argue with the success of Skull and Bones.
True. Famous alums include senators John Kerry and John Chafee, to name two, cabinet secretaries such as Averell Harriman, and 3 presidents, William Taft, George Bush, and George W. Bush, who's been reluctant to talk about Skull and Bones.
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
Rosenbaum says the tape is a valuable artifact, an extremely rare view into the secret society that groomed the American ruling class for generations.
Rumors of the latest rituals say that a newly accepted initiate must lie down naked in a casket and masturbate while the other members watch gathered in a circle. The Skull and Bones are known for their odd and sexually promiscuous rituals, but many don't know of the horrific and evil acts committed by these members throughout our government. In May 1918, Prescott Bush and 5 other Skull and Bones men ransacked the grave at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. They took turns to stand guard while others robbed the grave and took away artifacts and Geronimo's skull. This was taken to the Skull and Bones headquarters at Yale, where it is used in their sick rituals and ceremonies. This horrible story is told in an international history of the Skull and Bones Society and was quoted to Ned Anderson, the tribal chairman of the San Carlos Apache tribe, when he was negotiating to have Geronimo's remains returned to the tribe's custody. A 1989 article in the New Yorker said, one Bonesman recalled during the early 70s seeing perhaps 30 skulls, not all of them human, scattered about the tomb at Yale. This is the mentality of the people running our world. Every Skull and Bonesman has been incredibly successful and put at great powers in our government. President Bush tapped 5 Bonesmen, including William Donaldson, the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, to join his administration. John Kerry, class of 1966, became Senator and Secretary of State. Henry Luce, the founder of Time magazine, Life, Fortune, Home, and Sports Illustrated, was a Bonesman. General Manager of the New York Times, Amory Howe Bradford, was a Bonesman, class of 1934, and married Carol Warburg Rothschild. Percy Rockefeller, class of 1900, was a wealthy businessman and sat on directors' boards for many corporations. Richard Gow, president of George Bush's Zapata Oil Company, was a Bonesman, class of 1955. Alexandra Robbins, in a CBS interview, stated, "They do have many individuals in influential positions, and that's why this is something that we need to know about." The Skull and Bones, being interleaked with many government branches, is also connected to the CIA. Many powerful Bonesmen in our government were very much involved in the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency is widely known for its shadowy acts and strange positions it holds in government power. Many Bonesmen have graduated with CIA and intelligence community jobs waiting for them too. F. Truby Davison, Howard Weaver, William Sloane Coffin Jr., V. Van Dyne, James Buckley, Bill Buckley, Hugh Cunningham, Hugh Wilson, Reuben Holden, Charles R. Walker, Robert D. French, Archibald MacLeish, Dino Pionzio, William and McGeorge Bundy, Richard Moore, and George Bush are all Bonesmen with U.S. Intelligence Agency jobs. The Skull and Bones Society, along with the Bush family, put illegal drugs such as heroin and cocaine on the streets of the U.S. and the rest of the world. The Illuminati families in America and Britain launched an international drug trade and still maintain it today. Through their power in government agencies, they wipe out opposition, and this is exactly what you see when you watch a big drug bust on the news. Controlling the drug trade is a huge step to gaining financial power and is also a key factor in keeping parts of the world poor, unhealthy, and in poverty. The Skull and Bones Society has branches of power throughout the government, and Bushes were just one of the biggest families to be involved in the drug trade. The Skull and Bones Society is owned by the Russell Trust, an organization controlled by the Russells, a drug-running bloodline family. They flew the Skull and Bones flag on their ships as they transported drugs from the British Empire, from Turkey to China, and elsewhere during the Opium Wars of the 19th century. The Skull and Bones is an ancient Illuminati symbol used in its sacrificial rituals and secret language, not least by the Knights Templar. The Skull and Bones is a very well-hidden secret society that has infiltrated many positions of power in the U.S. government. One of their greatest methods of manipulation is the bipartisan Republican-Democrat system, in which they present 2 political figures from 2 different parties, and the American people have an election where they vote for which candidate they like more. This is clearly giving the illusion of choice to the population. They control both parties. They control the entire system. Yet I am supposed to believe that just by voting for one of their controlled puppets, that somehow everything is going to change? What are the chances that out of 300 million people, the 2 elected candidates would be related and both members of the same secret society? This is not a coincidence. It is reality. The Skull and Bones have taken big positions in power and have paved the way for the New World Order. They control both parties of the political system and have members in different sections of the government. In a 1992 interview with reporter Sarah McClendon, George H.W. Bush stated, "If the American people ever find out what we, the Bushes, have done, they would chase us down the street and lynch us."
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number
page.
322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look
Are
forward...
you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret.
And I'll tell you why. I'll show you. In every Masonic lodge, this right here is a Masonic tracing board. It is in every Masonic lodge. Some form or fashion, they have a picture of this. Notice that at the top is East. not north. On a compass, up at the top is north, due north, not in a Masonic lodge. The altar always faces east.
So there's 3 with 1 missing, it looks like. Is this the
I don't know exactly.
north, south, west, and the east is missing, or?
No, that would be the east.
That would be the east?
Because that's north.
Right.
Right. I don't know why that is missing, actually.
I asked him why there were only 3 lights at the altar, and he said he wasn't too sure why, but there are 3 because 1 represents the east, 1 represents the west, 1 represents the south. But in Masonry, the north is the place of darkness. And of course, according to the Bible tells us that the north is where God resides.
God is from the north. The Creator is from the north. The altar is not facing Him. It's facing east, where man was thrown out of the garden. Where does that come from? Genesis 3:24. So He drove out the man, and He placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubs and flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. And that's what's really going on here, is basically trying to get back in the Garden of Eden another way. But also notice, back to the tracing board, when you read from left to right, you have N-E-W-S. News. And it is code, because if you read it on a compass, it doesn't read correctly from left to right. Only in the Masonic tracing board or in a Masonic lodge do you get that reference from left to right, N-E-W-S, news. So just wanted to point that out. And also, it was also in one of the Olympics a couple of years ago. The stage was newspaper, and they also had an octopus as one of the mascots used in that show. Tentacles everywhere, the symbolism of the octopus reaching out all over the world. Same thing. Is putting a stamp out there of, we're in control of this artist, Taylor Swift. We're letting you know, we have her, what she's doing, her videos she's putting out, gorgeous, look what you made me do, and now this one. I mean, it's pretty much right in a row telling you something. Look what you made me do. Are you ready for it, gorgeous? I mean, that's pretty much telling you how they use the titles to tell you a story separately of what's going on. So, lastly, before I play the video, there's 3 versions of this CD. There's the standard, there's a special version volume 2. Notice that the numbers that are used in the special versions is 72. Now, anybody that's followed or seen any of my videos, I've told you that the pyramid on the back of your dollar bill is an uncompleted temple. Eye of Lucifer, Horus, whatever you want to say, on the back of your US dollar bill. So 72 is code word for 666. Depending on who you ask, they'll understand. And what I mean by that is 66 add a 6. The world teaches you 66 add a 6, you get 72. Ask someone in the know, Freemasonry, a 33rd degree Mason, ask him 66 add a 6. He'll tell you 666. He'll just add the 6. The statement is the same. The question is the same. 66 add a 6. But the way you're taught to look at it and perceive it, you get a whole different answer. So it's no accident that they've used 72 on her special versions of these other CDs. And it has to do with the temple. It has to do with what the very secret, the inner sanctum of Freemasonry is about. Building human temples. Building a stairway to heaven another way other than the way we've been shown. And, for you guys who think I'm grasping at straws and saying, Nicholson, you're just seeing what you want to see, I'm going to show you just a little quick example of why I'm telling you it's all around you. You just got to look for it, and they're telling you. And this is a perfect example. Remember the perfume commercial a couple of years ago with Julia Roberts? Notice she's walking into the room. She's in white. Everybody else is in black. There you go, the Masonic black and white. Everybody is connected from above. That's what the Freemasons are above. They want to disconnect from the Creator. They want to do it their way. They don't want to answer to a Creator. They want to break free. There you go, breaking free from that. And they want to, look, she's going up the stairs. She's ascending another way. She does not want to be like the rest of everybody else. That's what you just saw in a little quick perfume commercial right in front of your eyes that most don't see. So, remember what I told you in the garden? They believe Lucifer freed them from the evil creator that is controlling us from above, and they want to break free. So, I hope you enjoy this video remix. It's a lot of little information, quick information in here that I remixed it for you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share it for those out there that are still asleep. They don't get it. People are just, they're looking at other things and being distracted. But this is really the one game, and you better be ready for it. No pun intended.
You can't play God without being acquainted with the devil. The problem, Bernard, is that what you and I do is so complicated. We practice witchcraft. We speak the right words, and we create life itself out of chaos.
Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it?
And we create life itself out of chaos. And we create life itself
Are you ready for it?
out of chaos.
Are you ready for it?
One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossils. One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossils.
Hello?